for our penultimate podcast for the 2025 year, everybody. Welcome in to the UPick6 Tap House on what is a very busy night tonight on this Thursday, May 15th, everybody. I'm Isaac Petcash. Welcome in again to the United Podcast. It is our 12th of 13 episodes for this 2024-2025 year. We have so many guests here inside the UPick6 Tap House tonight, enjoying what is a beautiful evening and what is almost the end to an incredible school year. Of course, academic-wise, it is already over, but athletically, we still have one more championship event left to go. So here at Gannon, we're excited to welcome all of you in. If you haven't seen our show before, this is a podcast for Gannon Athletics featuring all the behind-the-scenes content, conversations with coaches and student athletes, and so much more. It is just such a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to talk with so many of the people that you get to see on and off the field of competition, game in and game out. We got a lot to get to tonight as we get ready for what is our second to final episode of this United podcast season. But before we do that, we want to first and foremost give a thank you to all of you who have been watching us this entire year. We could not do it without your support and your viewership. We've seen this podcast grow exponentially in the first few weeks that it's been born. And again, we can't thank you enough for being with us each and every single day on our podcast and through our journey at Gannon Athletics. So much to get to tonight as we begin. We're going to get to our dish of the day in just a second. But before we do, let's showcase what we've got going on in just a couple of minutes. We're going to bring in head coach Scott Stano for men's golf in a few minutes. He's going to join us, and then two of his student athletes are going to join us ahead of what will be a national championship week for Gannon men's golf. They, of course, claimed a tie for first in the Atlantic East Regional over the weekend at Whispering Woods. Going to talk to him and some of his student athletes about what's going on with that. But we'll also talk about the excitement around the national championship season and more. Also, head coach Matt Darling of the Gannon volleyball program will join us to preview his summer camps of the season ahead and talk some excitement over the academic success of the Golden Knights over the spring semester. And then, of course, what's on tap, dish of the day, top 5 plays of the week that was, so much more. That is all coming up on our show this Thursday evening on what, again, is a beautiful day here at the UPick6 Tap House. And make sure to get your way down to the Tap House right now as well. We're on the corner of 4th and State all the way until 7 o'clock tonight and beyond. You can make sure to stop down here until they close a little bit later this evening. Let's start things off with our dish of the day. It's classic, but it's a good classic. Let's showcase it. Well, it is a bittersweet end to our dish of the day and our normal guest appearance. Mitch Farnsworth is in his final week with us here at Gannon University. Mitch, first of all, we want to say thank you to you for everything you've done. This guy does so many things that go unnoticed, whether it be working with facilities or making sure that everything's good to go for games, man. So you're going to be missed for sure, but we're excited to see where life takes you next.
Thank you. Appreciate those kind words. I really do. It's going to be a great next step, and these last 2 years of Gannon have been great, for sure.
I can tell you one thing. The hardest thing for us is going to be replacing this specific dish of the day guest taster, and we figured that because we've showcased so many great dishes, and some of them have been exotic, but in a good way, we're going classic today, Mitch. It's the pepperoni pizza, and I want you to taste this and tell me on a scale of the pizzas you've tried in Erie where this ranks. Go for it. All right, while Mitch is eating the pizza, I want to remind you that our dish of the day, as it is every single week on Thursday, is $2 off. You can get our dish of the day $2 off tonight from 6 until 10 o'clock. And I got to tell you, if you don't like pepperoni pizza, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you're allergic, I understand. But other than that, Mitch, I'm really not sure what's wrong. Yeah, because that's something that's a pretty good staple.
I'm not going to lie. It is a great pizza. I'm trying to scale it to, like, over Erie. I've had a lot of good Erie pizza, but this is definitely one of the best I've had. I'm not going to lie. I don't even want to scale it because there's so many good places, but this pizza is absolutely delicious. You guys need to get down here. What is the next 2 hours? It's
next 4 hours. Next 6 to 10.
Even better. You need to get down here because this is just so great. With you can see it literally being made over in the corner over there.
Yes,
in the fire. Yeah,
they have a tremendous pizza oven here that you can see as you're sitting in the restaurant. You know what? We talk about all these different pizza toppings, but Yeah, pepperoni's really what started it all. I'm really curious. I don't know the history. Maybe you do. If you do know the history of the pepperoni pizza, let us know in the comments. Why pepperoni became the traditional topping on a pizza?
It's a good question.
Why
Whoever's
not
a smart
ham,
man.
sausage, pineapple? I know that's a top
That's
topic.
going to be a fight. You might get some argument quotes
But
on
why
that.
pepperoni?
Yeah. It's an interesting one, yeah. I don't know.
That's something that might be one of our summer projects. It might be one of our question. If we do a question of the day segment next year, it might be the first one might be, why is pepperoni the traditional pizza topping? But I don't know. It's a different conversation for another day.
I'm just saying, sounds like we need to go to Italy and find out. So if you're up to it, I'd say I'm just going to.
Fingers crossed. I'm hopefully taking a family trip there in a couple of years. I will tell you what, though. Why wait? I think we should just plan
on
this
now. I was going to say.
It could be your going away trip.
Exactly.
Great stuff, Mitch. It's been great to have you on the show. Take that pizza back and enjoy it, my friend.
I will.
And again, the pepperoni pizza, you all know it. You all love it. It is our dish of the day. You can get it, as Mitch said, for $2 off from now until 10 o'clock. So, again, what the heck are you waiting for? Get down to the UPick 6 Tap House right now, and we will get a chance to showcase not just the pepperoni pizza, but so many of the other great food and drink that is going on here at the Tap House each and every single day. All right, let's go ahead and focus on a couple of things that is exciting for the next week ahead. You know, one of the things that we, of course, focused on and featured in the last couple of weeks was men's and women's golf, both, of course, participating in the regional this past week. And boy, what a 3 days it was at Whispering Woods Golf Club. I am not sure I am recovered. I don't know how on earth this guy is recovered, but he knows how to make this season work and every single season work in the spring. Head coach Scott Stano joining us from men's and women's golf ahead of what's going to be a national championship week, Coach, in PGA National in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, for the men's golf team. But let's start with recapping the weekend that was last weekend. It was a crazy 3 days. You end up in a numerical tie with Davis and Elkins, and you move on to the national tournament. Take us through what those 3 days were like and the emotions, I'm sure, and the adrenaline that was pumping as you walked up the 18th with Rasmus there.
Oh, yeah, that was a hell of a putt that Rasmus made, right?
You'll see it in a bit in our top five plays.
He asked, can you tell me what the score is? And so I told him we're down 2, and we knew, because it's every 3 holes was live scoring, we knew he had 1 on. So he's like, we got to make a bird, right? And I said, yeah, we need to make a birdie. And so he had a great shot in. I think it was like around 92 meters in that area. Yeah, and then made a 15-foot putt, and he said got ourselves a chance, right? And so, it was crazy events at the end, you know, being told that you lost and there was a playoff. But it happens, you know, we got to learn from it. We used it as fuel for practice this week, and we had a great practice. And, you know, shout out to Whispering Woods for practicing this week. And then, you know, what was cool, we also had a great practice at 5-iron yesterday because we got to practice at PGA National, even though it was a simulator. But we still had, you know, great reps in, and we're excited for the opportunity. We leave Saturday, and we'll get a good practice round in on Sunday, and then the tournament's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and hopefully we're in the mix for top 8, and then medal match play, and then anything can happen in match play.
Yeah, so. Amen to that. I mean, you've been there a time or two. You know how it works. And I think when you look at the culmination of the 3 days, you guys had an amazing day, too. You shot the best out of any team in the field in that day and had one of the best rounds we've ever seen in a regional. And the funny thing, the way golf works, of course, and you know this, but for the audience, is that even though you may be ranked number 1 with your team at the beginning of the week, it doesn't necessarily mean that others can't get up to that spot at the end. And I want to touch on specifically Rasmus's individual performance. We're going to talk to him and Kyle Westfall in just a couple of minutes. He led the way for you guys. He was second individually at 2 under. For a young kid who in a lot of situations, I mean, he's been in this situation before, but not with the pressure, I'm sure, that he felt on Saturday. How impressed were you with him and just the overall team performance when you came into Saturday?
Well, yeah, Rasmus is as cool as you can get. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. Whispering Woods sits to his game very well. Very good wedge player. In the spring tournament, or in the fall at the Bud Atwell tournament, he went 67-67, so he shot 10 under there. And so he's very comfortable with that golf course. But the whole team in general, I mean, that's what was the goal starting in August. We want to get back to nationals. We're on our home turf. And so top to bottom, the entire team, I'm really proud of them, all the work that they did in from August all the way to that event. And then, it showed in round 2. But we are able to move on. And that's the most important thing, was moving on. And now we have the great opportunity to play for the national championship.
You mentioned using the entire weekend as fuel, and I know that I'm sure there are parts of you that believe you left some shots out there. Of course, any team is going to feel that way. Take us through kind of what this week has looked like in terms of preparation. Is there anything that you do differently or any way that you prepare? I want to talk about the course in a minute, but what do you do this week specifically to prepare, knowing that you're going to play a course that is not traditional to the courses you play during the year?
Yeah, we're not going to see a PGA National up here. So what can you represent? Like, what can you simulate the best? And so we played from the black tees at Whispering Woods. Now, usually when we have a tournament, we play, mixed tees and stuff like that. And then so we had a practice where we just played strictly black tees. And because you're going to have to get used to hitting longer shots, longer clubs into this golf course. And then another day, we actually wanted to shoot a low score. We wanted to play the best, and so we had a team competition. We played the white tees.
Nice.
Just to get the confidence up a little bit to shoot. And then, we had practiced at 5-iron. So, like, we did multiple different things. And then, tomorrow's going to be the last practice that we had at Whispering Woods. And so we're going to have a fun practice. We might do, we have 3 Americans traveling down, and we have 3 internationals. So we might do a little American international fun game, tomorrow to just keep things loose and stuff like that. But you don't want to change too much. You got where you are because of what you did. And so why change what you're doing well? So we're going to continue to have fun, and we're going to have a nice practice tomorrow, and then we'll leave bright and early.
When everyone thinks of PGA National, of course, the Bear Trap is what comes into play with 15, 16, and 17. But as a whole course, what are some of the challenges that PGA National presents itself for your team coming up this week?
The biggest key is going to be wind. I mean, there's a significant amount of water throughout that whole entire golf course. And if the wind stays calm, then you can score. The PGA guys play it at par 71. We're playing it at par 72. So there's a couple of not drivable par 5s, but like reachable par 5s that you can take advantage of.
Sure.
But it's going to, it's different. You're playing on Bermuda. We're not used to playing Bermuda. We did fortunately play on Bermuda grass when we were down in Myrtle Beach, so we have a little bit of experience on that. But it's visually intimidating. But we should be used to that because Whispering Woods is visually intimidating. It's more along the lines of just stay to your typical game. Don't worry about what others are doing. Control what you can control. And then hopefully when we get to the Bear Trap, 15, 16, 17, those are animals. Yeah. And hopefully we're not facing 15, 20-mile-an-hour winds straight in our face because that might be 2 clubs, 3 clubs more. You don't want to have a 4-iron going into that hole where normally you're hitting a 7-iron or an 8-iron. So the variable of the golf course, but the temperatures look great. It's going to be in the 90s all 4 days. It's going to be warm. So
my gosh,
ball will be flying. So that's going to be good. It's going to be a fun time.
I'll tell you what, man. That Florida weather. I mean, you've experienced it probably more than I. That's no joke. No. Trying to go out for 4.5, 5, and we saw at the regional. You're at 5, sometimes 5.5 hour rounds. That's got to be difficult as a athlete and as a coach to have to go through that long of a round in that hot of temperatures.
Yeah, we'll make sure they're hydrated and they have plenty of snacks and fuel for on the golf course and plenty of water. Yeah, it can be long, and that's the beauty about golf, though. It's such a mental sport too. I mean, if things are going great, your head's spinning. If things aren't going great, your head's spinning. Yeah. So it's just going to try to keep, don't get too high when the highs are high, and don't get too low when the lows are low. Just go to your happy place, as Happy Gilmore once said.
Good point. I love it. All right, Coach, we're going to let you defer to your players here, but best of luck to Florida this weekend. Hopefully the weather cooperates for you.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, here's some of what we missed from the award winners from this. All righty. These two are going to be part of the national championship team in Florida this upcoming week. It is Rasmus Seppänen, who finished second in the individual category in the regional, and Kyle Westphal, local product, who draws into the lineup coming up this week as well. Gentlemen, I saw you both at Day of Giving. It's good to see you both again. It's good to see you both with a national championship appearance in tow. Start with you on this, Rasmus. Your coach was talking to me about there was a lot of motivation. Of course, we know just the chaos of how the day ended on Saturday with is there going to be a playoff, and there's going to be a playoff, and there's not going to be a playoff. Take us through kind of what this week has looked like and some of the motivation and excitement that you have for the national championships coming up here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun experience to be at nationals, and we're all very, very excited. So just to get the opportunity to play there is a big motivator, and the way we finished in regionals is also a big part of it. So this week has been a lot of practice, just grinding and doing our, just preparing ourselves for the upcoming tournament.
How nervous were you when you walked up to the 9th hole there on Saturday night?
Oh, how nervous! Well, I asked my coach, like, all right, so what's the leaderboard situation here? Like, how do I have to putt this? And he was like, all right, we're 2 behind, so, do what you gotta do.
Yeah, gotta make it essentially.
Yes, and so, but I didn't get that nervous. I was pretty calm during that putt. I knew I just had to give it a chance and good roll, and if it goes in, it goes in.
Individually, of course, you end up taking second, just 1 behind the overall leader, and your coach talked about how Whispering Woods really played to your style of game. What was the key for you throughout the 3 rounds, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? You had to deal with some elements, right? It was wet, it was windy on Thursday. You had 2 frost delays on Friday and Saturday. What was the key to staying consistent and staying right there up until the end individually?
Yeah, well, I think Whispering Woods is just hitting a lot of fairways. The rough was pretty thick, so hitting good shots off the tee was an important thing, but then it's also very mental. It's just staying consistently within your mind is, I think, the biggest thing on Whispering Woods.
And now you get a chance to go for national championships. We'll talk about PGA National in just a couple of minutes. Kyle, you also now get an opportunity to be inserted into this lineup for nationals, and despite not playing the regional, of course, you got a chance to play a lot this year. Take us through, in your mind, the excitement of getting a chance to play. I know, obviously, you earned your way in there to be able to have an opportunity to play. What this experience is like, of course, getting a chance to see as a team from previous years and last year. What's the excitement around this week and kind of what it means to this team and what it'll be like starting on Monday?
No, yeah, I'm really excited. I think, this is the biggest tournament of my life that I've played in, but like in a good way, like not to be nervous or anything, but I'm really excited. I didn't get to play in regionals like you said, but fortunate to get an opportunity to play here. I've been playing really good all year. I was kind of a little behind last year, but took a big leap in the fall, and I'm really excited to go to nationals.
When you look at the way, and for both of you, I guess I'll start with you, Kyle, on this, because your coach joked and said, well, regionals is so much different from nationals because you really haven't seen a course like PGA National, but of course you guys got to play it, albeit virtually at 5-iron last night. When you guys look at the way, Bermuda grass plays, it plays differently. You're going to be in warm weather at PGA National. What are some of the things in practice did you have to maybe simulate this week, try to get ready for, given the fact that this course will be difficult? What are some of those things you're looking at come next week?
Yeah, one of the things we've been really working on is like shot shaping with like different trajectories, because PGA National, it's really flat, it's going to be windy. We're going to have to avoid water, avoid bunkers, and just really play to spots, which honestly Whispering Woods sets us up really nicely for that, because it's the same kind of thing as just hitting shots to a spot, not necessarily just smashing drivers down the middle, but that helps too.
Rasmussen, in preparation for national championships, your coach talked about that you had a really motivated week. It felt like you guys feel like you have something to prove, again, given that, and any team's going to go 54 holes and feel like they could have some stuff back, but I'm sure that there's a little bit of motivation for you guys as well. What is going to be the key to be able to play well this upcoming week, knowing that you go into a national competition and you play a course that's, of course, is world-renowned for not just its entirety of the course, but some of the holes late down the stretch as well?
Yeah, I think one of the big things about going to nationals is just embracing this opportunity. This is where we want to be. We want to go here, and taking that in and really embracing it is gonna help us play better. And then at the end of the day, results, they're gonna be what they're gonna be. But what we as a Gannon team know that we have to control our controllables. So drink a lot of water, put sunscreen on, have an umbrella. These simple things. If we can take care of those, the results will come.
I know this seems like a silly question, and I know you guys understand where you're playing at in Florida, but does the heat play a part? I mean, I know you got to stay hydrated, that's obvious, but how do you get that part out of your head, knowing that you're going to be playing for, I mean, we saw rounds took 4.5, 5 hours at Whispering Woods, knowing you're going to be outside for that long and playing on that tough of a course. Does that ever factor into your mental game, and what's the key to just kind of blocking that out, knowing that golf is a mental game in and of itself, Rasmus?
Yeah. Can you phrase that one more time?
Does weather ever play a part, and how do you
Yes.
just deal with the fact that you're going to be in that 90-degree heat?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Like having heat on you the entire time for 4 to 5 hours that's hard. That's tough. So you gotta drink. You gotta have electrolytes. Have an umbrella. Stay in the shade, and then there are a couple other things like the ball's gonna go further and stuff like this. But I think we're well equipped to handle these situations.
Lastly, Kyle, when you end this week and whatever the result may be, what will you remember about this team specifically? And it seems like you guys are so very close. You have a great mix of American and international student athletes, but you all seem like you have a great bond. What will this team be remembered as, regardless of the outcome at the end of this week?
Yeah, I think we all just love working together, and we hang out, we see each other every single day. We've been really locked in practicing this week, like pushing each other to go harder, and that's really what it's all about, is just getting the best out of each other, and that's, I think, what I remember.
Can't wait. Going to be an exciting few days at PGA National for these guys. 2 of the 5 that you'll see in action coming up this upcoming week. Rasmus, Kyle, appreciate you both being on. Enjoy the warmth, enjoy the bear trap, and have so much fun. Make sure PGA National is a good time. We can't wait to see what you guys do.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
All right, Rasmus Seppin and Kyle Westfall joining us here on the United Podcast as we continue along. In just a minute, we're going to have Coach Matt Darling of volleyball joining us to preview his upcoming summer camps and more. Before we get to that, though, if you remember, before we have Coach on, we want to get to a couple of videos we took earlier this week. Remember back on Day of Giving, we had an opportunity for many of you to get to showcase your gifts and your appreciation for Gannon Athletics, and then we would return the favor and appreciate what you did. So we made a deal and said if any team reaches their $5,000 goal, then we would pie their coach in the face. Some coaches, of course, reached that goal and got pied in the face live on our live stream. Others, of course, couldn't be there due to other obligations, and maybe they thought we forgot. Well, we don't tend to forget things that easily. Take a look.
Can you really pay attention to her face? Because I think this would be, you got to get both.
Desmond for the assist on that one. We don't have head coach Matt Darling in this video. We did take a separate video that we'll have on social media. Victor Desmond really pushed that pie into coach's face. Was it more gentle on your end?
Yeah, Sarah Boyd, who is a graduate and had no reason to hold back, demonstrated a little bit of restraint there. But yeah, she did a great job.
Well, it's good to have you on, Coach. Appreciate you joining us. I know that things have been busy for you, of course, between your duties in the English department and getting things ready, whether it be for summer camp or for the volleyball season. But for you, I want to reminisce first off on the year that was. Of course, we saw your team, again, make it back all the way to the Elite Eight and have such another amazing year. When you look at the year that was and what went into it academically and athletically, take me through kind of how gratifying each and every year has been for you and what this past year showcased for another great season for your program.
Yeah, starting in the fall, the season went well. We set a goal to get back to the Elite Eight. We had been there 3 years in a row until 2023 and then missed out. So that was job one for us. Made it. I wouldn't say that it was the smoothest run. I mean, record-wise, it was one of our worst records actually in the last 10 years. But that's tough competition, and give the team a lot of credit because we bounced back from a disappointing performance in the conference tournament final, and we played really well in the regional. Shaw was a great team, got a win there, and then had to beat West Virginia State, who had just beaten Clarion, and then we had to beat Wheeling, who had just beaten IUP, and those two teams, both beat us during the season. So I feel pretty good about that. The spring's a whole different ball game. We had a very different team. We lost 8 players from our previous team, so that's almost half, and did a lot of learning, trying to figure out our identity, spent a lot of time, behind the scenes on the team building stuff. And then, and the reality of my world is I'm doing that in conjunction with, teaching and presenting papers and things like that. But, it's May 15th, and I feel really great about the academic year as it was.
We'll get to the outlook of the season, some summer camp information in a couple of minutes, but we're anticipating in the next day or two that the spring GPA will come out. Of course, we know in the fall Gannon student athletes were over 3.4 as an overall unit, and it just continues a great academic success. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit, if you would, about that part, because we always mention the student athlete experience when it comes to Gannon, and you're one of the individuals who knows that almost better than anybody else. Take us through how student athletes here are so good about being able to balance the practice and the game schedule with their class obligations, and how you've been able to see that really come to fruition in the time that you've been here.
I think the non-insider, the people who are not inside athletics, I think tend to end up with a misperception about what the student athlete really looks like. And why is that? Well, because media portrayals, because there's some of the athletes that they might see on CBS on the afternoon or on ESPN Sports Center, are not the sort of like traditional student athlete, and that's even more so today than it would have been even 5 years ago. Right. That's understood, and so people are forgiven, I think, for not understanding exactly what this looks like. But at a place like Gannon, what we're really talking about here are people who, yes, they're dedicated to their sport. They're trying to compete and have success in the field of competition, but they're also motivated for some sort of academic achievement. And sometimes that's just a function of who they are as people, but sometimes that's a function of, I really want to be a nurse, or I really want to be an accountant, or I really want to be a history teacher, or whatever that is. And I think that the coaches here also understand that we're in this space where the academic experience is enhanced, not replaced, by what's happening in the competitive realm. And I've had many faculty members tell me about my own team, but also about student athletes in general, that some of the best, most motivated, most successful at time management students that they have are also athletes. And so I take that as a compliment when it's about my team, obviously, but I do think that it's a testament to the kind of good work that the coaches are doing, to make sure that the student athletes are doing the right thing academically, because ultimately, it's a cliche, right? The 90% of the people that are playing NCAA sports are going pro in something other than sports, and I think that's definitely true.
And to your point, it is an ever-changing landscape of collegiate athletics. You mentioned that we see now, whether it be with NIL deals or the transfer portal being so plentiful in every single sport, of yours included, it's so difficult to maintain that academic experience, and I think just goes to show, and you've seen this too on a national level, that it is difficult now to maintain that standard and have that success, and yet Gannon continues to do it year in, year out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's the institution. I think Gannon deserves a lot of credit for understanding who it is, like who we are, and then I think my responsibility as a coach in this department is to be able to translate that in volleyball terms to the people that we're trying to bring in here. It doesn't do me any good to coach and recruit and have a certain philosophy if the coach next to me doesn't share that philosophy, because at some point our athletes are going to talk to each other and say, well, why am I doing this when someone else is doing that?
Right.
And but I think that we've stayed on the same page with that, and that's good leadership. That's a good understanding of mission. That's a good understanding of who we are in terms of our identity. And so I think we like to do our part for that, but that's not something that we would take credit for individually.
Let's talk summer. And for any sport, it is an important time because you're out on the recruiting trail and you're making sure that things are ready for the season. But as a fall sport, it becomes, I'm sure, hyperdrive for you and the team. Take us through kind of what the summer looks like and some of the things that, as you've evolved and adapted as a coach to the current landscape of collegiate athletics, you really need to focus in on for this upcoming 2025 version of Gannon Volley.
The summer for us starts with just a little bit of separation, I think. We've had a pretty intense spring season. Yeah. Not I mean, athletically and in terms of like strength and conditioning, it was good. It was solid. But we spent a lot more time doing our mission statement than we have in years past. And, this year's team understands how they want to be different from the teams of the past. And one of the ways is not competitively. They want to be playing at a high level. But they just want to go about it a little bit differently. They want to have a little bit more joy. They want to have a little bit more smelling the flowers along the way, if that makes sense, as opposed to like we were dead set on winning a regional.
Enjoying the moment as it continues and progresses.
Having our feet a little bit more, our mind where our feet are a little bit more. So that's good, but I think that also leads to some goals, and so we use that to set goals. For the next few weeks, hopefully, people are doing their summer workouts. That's not something we have a lot of control over. It's, they understand what this looks like. So that for the 10 people who were here with us in the spring, they kind of know when we come back in August, we don't remediate. This is not 2 weeks to get you back into shape. We're starting to practice. Do what you need to do in order to get to that point. The returners, this is not a problem. The incoming kids, who many of whom I think are going to have a fact, they're going to be relevant. They're going to be relevant in what we're doing in terms of the starting lineup. They're potentially going to be relevant in terms of how we score our points. I have even less control over them because they don't even exactly understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. But in a program like ours, in a fall sport, I think people understand we got to come back and we got to be ready to compete. Our first match of the year is against the defending national champion. I mean, there's like literally not a deep breath before we dive in. I mean, that's going to hit us right away. I kind of like starting off that way. It just it focuses us. It focuses me. And whether or not we come back in shape will also affect our confidence, because confidence doesn't come from like what you say to yourself. It's what you are doing, and if your actions are consistent with your thought processes, then I think that we'll be right where we need to be. But it's going to be a fun. I'm actually looking forward to this. It's the most uncertainty that we've had in terms of a starting lineup for a long time. In 2022, because we didn't have a setter in the spring, there was a lot of uncertainty about that. But then, Bengasu rode in on a white horse and saved us, basically. I think that there's a lot of potential for some different lineups in the fall, and it's going to be interesting. And what people are doing individually over the summer is going to impact what this looks like for us once we start playing.
And again, a motivational factor, right, in the fact that you don't necessarily know every single piece where it's going to fit. It just gives your student athletes an opportunity to really compete for those starting spots and some other role-playing spots, and we can't wait to see what the team looks like come the fall. And you mentioned right out of the gate defending national champions and a few tournaments that you play, so we wouldn't rather want to have it any other way.
Right.
Throughout the summer as well, you get a chance to introduce summer camps as you've been doing year in, year out. Take us through some of the details and how important those camps are, not just for your student athletes, but for, I'm sure, things that you look at as well in this area, a chance to grow the game.
When I first got to Gannon, we decided we were going to do a camp. This was summer 2007. The program was not having competitive success at this point, so we weren't sure what kind of a draw we would have. And we had exactly 19 kids.
Wow.
My mom cooked all the food for the camp. We had an overnight camp. My mom made lasagnas and tossed salads and brownies for dessert, and we made a go of it. Fast forward to right now, it's mid-May for a July camp. Our camp is over 2 months away. And we have the first camp is virtually sold out.
Wow.
The second camp is about half full. And we've never run 2 weeks of camp before. So this is, we're looking at a record number of campers. We have kept our camp inexpensive. We want this to be accessible to people locally. It's not unusual for us to run, special programs with the local kids to give, like discounts or even, free spaces if it's available. It's our way of kind of building the sport, I guess, in the city. I wish that personally my schedule would allow me to do more in the community, honestly. But camp is our way to get into touch. And I can't tell you how many people will, not usually to me because I'm not that likable, but they'll come up to my athletes after camp. Trust me, come up to the athletes after camp and say, just how much fun they had, and then they come and watch our games and. And then if they come back for camp the next year, like there's that relationship. And so camp functions as a positive element of our program on several different levels. Obviously, we love to have volleyball people all congregated in the same place. It's a way for us to like get people introduced to the sport as beginners, because a lot of times we have a court or two of like total beginners. But also like it gives us fans for the fall. We have a camp reunion. And I just love coaching camp. If I could coach camp, I like teaching the game. I like teaching the skills. And, you know, I usually end up taking like the top group because, you know, there might be some people who are interested in being recruited and things like that. But where my like heart is in these kids who don't know how to do anything, because you can have such a huge impact on that group of students because they just literally don't know anything.
My wife talks about it all the time. She was part of one of your volleyball camps, and I think you may have mentioned it makes a lifetime impact on so many. And I'm sure you go through so many different fundamental skills, drills, things of that nature. But I want to ask you just about the growth of the game, because I talked with a couple of coaches who were also participating with summer camps this summer, and where you think volleyball is in Erie as a whole. We have seen some incredible high school teams. You know, Corey, of course, comes to mind. There are others, whether it's Maplewood, others who have really made a really great run, even in the last decade. Where do you think the game of volleyball is as a whole in Erie, and maybe your role and your team's role in being able to expand that?
It's definitely gotten better. When I first got to Gannon, I wasn't, you know, the number of athletes in the community that I thought would really make an impact at the D2 level were not that many, and many of them were in like Crawford County. Fast forward to now, I mean, every year, I mean, a couple of years ago, I missed out on a kid from, you know, down in Conneautville, and that kid scored 2,500 points in her career. I would have liked to have had her. And you know, so those kids they're available, they're around, they're not coming, they're not going D2 in some cases, but so I think that's a positive sign. But I do think that we're still behind where a lot of the rest of the country is in terms of women's volleyball. Women's volleyball has become, I believe, the #1 participant sport in the country for women. And so it's past basketball, it's even past track and field. And we haven't seen that kind of uptake here as we have in some other places. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for all the coaches, but like, you know, the infrastructure, let's say, of girls basketball is much more established here. The infrastructure of even like softball is much stronger here. The infrastructure of soccer for women is just stronger. And so I think it's great to see so many people playing volleyball in the area, but I still think it lags behind what we're seeing nationally.
And that's where camps and coming out to games, whether it's for an individual game or for a season, really, really helps. And I think that that's, to your point, something that you can take from camps and your camp reunion and things of that nature. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, you know, we, of course, have had the Highmark Event Center, the newly renovated one, open now for 4 months or so, actually 4 months today, but your team has not had a chance to have a game inside the Highmark Event Center yet. I'm sure that's something that you're really looking forward to, and just take us through, I'm sure, the excitement and the chats that your team has had about being back in that building come September.
I think they're excited about it. I mean, they were certainly excited about re-entering the space. Just really appreciate everything that we were able to do over at the at Prep. But you know, it's not home. It's still, you know, you're a transient when you're out there. So we practiced there during the spring. It's gonna be nice to be back in there. I don't know. I guess we'll see what that first home match looks like, which I believe is against Shepherd on a Friday night, which will be a big match actually. We should probably try to find some way to promote that.
Don't worry, we're on it.
All right, great. Because we could use a win in that one. But yeah, so what we did at home over the years, we played so many big matches there, and you know we lifted up some trophies, and that's, you know, I really want us to be able to do that again in that space as a new space, as the Highmark Event Center, you know, redo, and I think the players will be excited about it too. You know, it was one of those things where during the fall I couldn't allow myself to be publicly excited about this, because I had this group of seniors, you know, All-American after All-American after All-American, who weren't going to ever play in it. And so I couldn't even like be excited about it around the people who were going to be playing in it, because just out of respect, you know, to that group of kids. And so it was something that we like never really talked about. I don't have an analogy for that, but it's like if you knew that Santa Claus was coming, but you couldn't talk about it because, you know, some of your team wasn't going to get anything other than a coal in the stocking. You know, you just gotta keep it on the DL. So, but I do think that I personally am looking forward to being in that space. You know, new technology, the cameras. We'll have our video replay is going to be a thing for the first time. Yeah, so a lot of things to look forward to.
Yep. And whether it's you're watching on the stream or come to the matches, because there are some great opportunities for in-game excitement as well, and some of the lights and sounds and things that we've been able to tinker with during basketball season will be relayed to volleyball season.
Glad to hear it.
As well. So, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a wonderful opportunity to get to talk to you, and I know I have a busy summer ahead. But one final thing before you go, take us through where you can for the second camp that's not sold out, where you can go, and the key to signing up here.
Yeah, so the spots in camp are available the week of July 21st to July 24th. It's a Monday through Thursday camp. There's an overnight option. There's also a commuter option. So for people who are from in town, if you want to do the drop-off and pick-up thing, you can. Otherwise, you can stay overnight. The Gannon Volleyball website and the campsite, we have the spots, but you're looking for week 2, which is the July 21st through the 24th.
And we'll have the info on our website as well, GannonSports.com. Coach, again, it's been wonderful having you, and best of luck this summer. Can't wait to see you around, and the excitement for the team next year certainly palpable.
Isaac, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, head coach Matt Darling of Gannon Volleyball joining us on the program. He has a very busy summer and, of course, fall ahead with his team trying to make another run at the Elite Eight. Want to give a shout-out to our Gannon Student Athletes of the Week before we let you go here today. And, of course, we'll have our top 5 plays in a moment as well. Elijah Rupert from Men's Golf, who was part of that great team performance as we talked about earlier in the show that helped Gannon advance to national championships. And Lily Fritz from Acrobatics and Tumbling, who received a plethora of Founders Day academic awards at Gannon's University commencement last weekend. She and Elijah Rupert are our Gannon Chick-fil-A Erie Student Athletes of the Week. More awards to speak of as well in the CCA Division II Commissioners Association. Emma Smerick was named to the first team All-Atlantic region for her incredible efforts this season. Smoke, as they call her, the leadoff hitter for head coach Michelle Wiley's Golden Knights softball squad, was just a force at the plate. She was very hard to get out and had great abilities in the field as well. Natalia Malazzi, who has just put together such a stellar career at Gannon University. She also was named to the All-Atlantic region team, claiming a second team honor from the D2 CCA. Congratulations to both Natalia as well as Emma Smerick for receiving those All-Atlantic region honors from the D2 CCA. As a reminder, our dish of the day today is the classic pepperoni pizza. Classics are sometimes the best, no question about it. And now until 7 o'clock, you can get that said dish of the day for $2 off here at the UPick 6 Tap House. Head on down, whether it be for the end of our podcast or just until 10, so you can get that classic pepperoni pizza for $2 off. All right, time now for our top 5 plays of the week as we get ready to wrap things up here on the United Podcast. Take a look at who made the cut. All of them, of course, coming from men's regional golf. All right, it's our top 5 plays of the week. All of them, of course, coming from the men's regional golf tournament, which, of course, was the one tournament that was local here in Erie from the past weekend. We start at number 5, and you're going to see Giovanni Di Lorenzi on a par 5, the 7th, chipping one up the hill in what's a tough shot. A lot tougher than it looks. Gio with a nice jump there to get up and then down for the birdie. He's not going to end his top 5 appearances, though, there. Gio was a really big factor in Gannon's regional performance. Had a couple of huge birdies, specifically on day 3, towards the end of the competition, to get Gannon back in contention for that number 1 overall seed. But a great job there by Gio to find the hole in what's a up and down. And those conditions early in the week were not easy on that Thursday first day, where it was cold, it was windy, and at some point a little bit of rain. Here comes number 4. This is on the par 5 third hole. Take a look at how close Rasmus Seppinen hits this ball and then drains it for a birdie. I'll tell you what, Rasmus was one of the cleanest ball strikers all tournament long. He rarely missed a green, and when he did, more often than not, he was chipping up and down for a par. Able to put that ball within 8 feet of the hole, convert his putt here. He, of course, remember, was second on the individual leaderboard of the best Gannon golfer score-wise of the 3-day tournament. We'll see him again in the top 5 as well. Here comes number 3. This is Mattia Perini chipping from the same hole that we just showed Gio getting a birdie on, the 7th. A little bit longer of a chip here, and yet he puts it that much closer to the hole. What a job by Mattia, specifically on days 1 and 2, to pick up a birdie there. And again, just have an incredible tournament, really minus the back 9 on the 3rd day. That form is just so pure, too. Remember, ball didn't travel as far on the first day with the wet conditions and the cold conditions. Mattia, it really didn't matter. He cut through that wind like butter, hits the birdie putt there. And he is in that group of 5 for the Golden Knights that will be taking on PGA National coming up starting on Monday. To the top 2 now. I told you that we'd see Giovanni Di Lorenzi yet again, and we go back to the 3rd hole on the final day. Gio, about a 20-foot left to right undulating putt for birdie. Watch it drop in. The little fist pump for good measure. Gio, almost like the same putt that he hit to win the regional preview on the 18th hole back in early April. This time, just watches it come down the hill. And what a job by Gio for that putt on the 3rd hole. Part of a big run there for the Italian. Here comes number 1. This is the putt that we talked about with head coach Scott Stano to force a tie in the regional team standings on the final hole of the day. Rasmus Seppänen, about a 15-footer left to right. This man has ice in his veins. Almost like he knew it all the way. And the reaction, a little sigh of relief there. But of course, the trust from head coach Scott Stano to Rasmus Seppänen, who just had an incredible tournament. Again, 2 under for him in the 3-day tournament. And part of now a Gannon Golden Knights team that will be heading to Florida, Palm Beach Gardens to be exact, for the NCAA National Division II Championships coming up on Monday. 3-day tournament, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If Gannon's able to make the top 8, they would, of course, head on to that quarterfinal stage later in the week. So much, of course, going on in addition to the sports that are happening throughout the rest of the year. We've got so much to look forward to. The academic spring grades will be coming out. We expect another high mark for the overall cumulative GPA for Gannon student athletes, and we'll get that to you on our social media sites as soon as we know. Of course, looking forward to covering the national championships and summer camps. We mentioned Coach Darling and his volleyball summer camp. We had Coach Cleve Wright on this past week to talk about his exciting summer camps as well. And finally, we want to mention to you that any summer camp that's happening on the campus of Gannon University can be found on our website, gannonsports.com. There are still spots available for most of those summer camps, so make sure, though, to not waste any time. Head over to our website, navigate to the camps tab, and we'll have information on how you can attend those summer camps and your little ones can get some experience with some of our great Gannon student athletes. We are not done with our podcast season just yet. We have one more episode coming up next week, and we're excited to bring it to you. Got a couple of exciting things down the pike for that final episode, and we'll let you know what those will be on social media once we learn more. So make sure to join us next week. One more episode on the United Podcast. Details of that episode forthcoming on social media. And, of course, any update with Gannon Athletics can be found on our social media pages and our website, www.gannonsports.com. We leave you tonight with the week that was from this penultimate episode of our first United Podcast season. Thanks again, everybody, for being a part of each and every single episode with us and for being a part of Gannon Athletics day in and day out. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.